Put my phones away. Are we ready? Yeah. Set it on the end. I can move it a little more. It's hard to sit here with a skirt on. You guys facing right up. Danny. Danny. How are you?
That's his way of saying Yo conozco Moscow. I think there's something wrong with me. Is this stuff here?
No? I do.
I don't know why.
I still a little nervous.
You're big in this one, too.
This little chair.
Still not right, huh? There's another one over here. Try this one. You gotta pull that handle. The one you had hold of, I think is the one. Yep, that's it.
I think it's probably.
It should come up. Here, pull it up.
Oh, it doesn't pull.
Lisa.
Hello, how are you?
DUANE, you got a name, placard and everything. Maybe we spelled it correctly.
It just didn't go up like it should have. It looks a little harder. There you go.
Oh, this is better. Then I don't feel like I'm down that way. Yeah.
On the tables up here.
When you guys laugh, we feel self-conscious.
No laughing.
Well, did you guys?
Oops.
Oh, you broke it, and I'm a witness.
Already.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And did you turn it on and off the whole time? Like after I switched it off? No. Because we were talking to Nat
Good evening. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of South San Mateo County, I'd like to welcome the candidates and you, the audience, to this public forum for City Council members for the City of East Palo Alto. My name is Lisa Conrad, and I'm a League volunteer, and I'll be the moderator this evening. First, a little bit about the League. League of Women Voters is a national political organization of women and men. We do not support or oppose candidates for office nor political parties. We do work to influence public policy through advocacy and education, and our education mission is to encourage your active and informed participation in government at every level. Our interest is in helping voters gain fair and unbiased information in order to make informed decisions on Election Day, November 8th. In addition to this forum, I encourage you to visit the California State League of Women Voters election website, votersedge.org, for information about all of the candidates and measures on your ballot. So to begin with, ask everyone to turn your cell phones off. This event is being recorded and will be replayed on local or public access television. You can access the recording by going to either the Mid-Peninsula Community Media Center, the League's website, and also votersedge.org. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for opening statements and 2 minutes for closing statements. Written questions will be taken from the audience, and we ask that you submit those using the 3x5 cards our volunteers, Shirley DeMarais and Diana Post, will be handing out. Please raise your hand if you'd like a card, and when you've written your question out and you want to submit it, just hold the card up and they'll collect it from you. Thank you. This allows us to cover a wide range of issues as possible and also avoids speeches and redundancy. Each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to respond to each question. Joanne Brueggemann, also a League member, will be our timekeeper this evening. She'll be timing each speaker and will hold up signs at 1 minute, 30 seconds, and stop. And I ask the candidates to please not exceed your time limit. Another League volunteer is Ellen Hope, who will be sorting questions to help us avoid redundancy. So we have 4 candidates running for 3 seats on the East Palo Alto City Council. The candidates are DUANE Goff, Lisa YARBROUGH-GAUTHIer, and Larry James Moody.
Hello.
Carlos Romero is out of the country right now and cannot be here tonight. The candidates drew numbers to determine their seating position. Opening statements will go in this order, and closing statements will go in the reverse order. And I will rotate through the order for the questions. This is our standard League format, and we do it this way to keep it equitable. So please write your questions on the cards available and pass it to one of our League volunteers, and we'll get started with opening statements. I'm going to read a statement from Carlos Romero. He says, I'm out of the country and regrettably cannot be at the candidate forum tonight. In my absence, the forum moderator has been so kind as to read this statement for me. For 34 years, I have been active in East Palo Alto's public life. Currently, I'm completing a 20-month city council term after being elected to a 4-year term in 2008 and serving as mayor in 2011. During my 6 years on the council, we have made many civic improvements, including road repaving, installing new sidewalks, 2 new parks, strengthening tenant protections, significantly lowering crime, funding affordable housing, starting a major flood prevention project, and a Highway 101 pedestrian bridge, and funding a $5 million capital improvement projects reserve. Despite these advances, East Palo Alto is at a pivotal crossroad. Consequently, we must be vigilant of the displacement and dislocation brought about by this prosperity. I will continue to champion the concerns of our city's most vulnerable, balancing economic growth with improved services and programs that help our residents maintain a foothold in East Palo Alto and achieve economic security. As a Stanford and Harvard-educated urban planner and affordable housing developer with deep roots in community economic development, I'm committed to collaborative, community-driven processes that seek real solutions to the urban challenges we face. This same spirit of meaningful citizen participation guides my work on the East Palo Alto City Council. Together, in partnership with our residents, East Palo Alto will prosper. Carlos Romero, candidate for City Council, City of East Palo Alto. And so, Larry James Moody, an opening statement first.
Hi, good evening. I want to first and foremost thank all of you in attendance for being here tonight and demonstrating your interest in the activities of the city of East Palo Alto. Certainly want to thank the League of Women Voters for your support of the voting process and your ability to come into communities and make sure that our voices are heard. In 1992, I arrived in the community of East Palo Alto alongside my wife, Lisa, and ever since then, we have made it a commitment as a family to serve this community. There hasn't been an initiative or activity related to community development or youth development in this community over the last 25 years that I haven't been a part of in some capacity. 3 years ago, I was fortunate enough to be elected to the East Palo Alto City Council, and I take this position. It means a lot to me personally and certainly to my family. Affordable housing, water, and job creation and traffic lead the discussion throughout the community and the state. 4 years ago, I pledged to work towards East Palo Alto leaders being represented in the state, county, and the state level on strategic discussions on regional issues impacting our quality of life. Mission accomplished. As a representative of the council, I have served on the San Mateo County Jobs and Task Force, Housing Task Force. I've chaired the San Mateo County Housing and Community Development Commission. I serve as a board member for the newly created Peninsula Clean Energy Initiative. I was selected by our Congresswoman Jackie Spears to serve on the FAA Task Force on Quiet Skies. I presently, and most recently at our state convention, was elected to the executive committee of the Peninsula Division of the League of Cities. On public safety, East Palo Alto has had a 35% reduction in crime during my time on the council. I'll stop there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Lisa?
Thank you. My name is Lisa Gaucher. I do go by Lisa YARBROUGH-GAUTHIer. I honor my mother by using my maiden name, Yarbrough. My mother was a teacher here when Ravenswood was open, and she taught home ec. I'm a longtime resident of the community, raising my children here as well. I attended elementary school, middle school, and high school in the community, so therefore I am truly a product of the city of East Palo Alto. During my time on council, I have been a volunteer, working on Wednesdays to provide hot meals to the community at St. Francis Church. I have worked with College Track as a key point volunteer with the children. I've worked at the Boys and Girls Club and also led some cleanup efforts within our community. During my term as mayor for East Palo Alto, I brought OpenGov to the community, which allows the community residents to have access to the finances of the city. They're supposed to be clear and transparent. You can go online and see how we're budgeting things. Additionally, as mayor, while in Washington, D.C., I had the opportunity to accept President Barack Obama's My Brother's Keeper initiative, which we're currently working on, and with the council's help, we're working to make a difference for our young men and boys of color, and in this community, we also include young women. This city is facing some challenges. Right now, water is a huge issue. Affordable housing is a huge issue. We deal with parking in our city all the time, but we need to figure out what we're going to do with water in order to develop and provide the services that residents need. I am committed to the city. I appreciate being on the council, and I look forward to more questions. Thank you.
Thank you. DUANE?
Thank you, and welcome tonight to everybody. I want to thank the League of Women Voters as well as the participants out there in the community. My name is DUANE Goff, and I'm running for City Council because I've been involved in the community in the short time I've lived here. I have fallen in love with the community and with the people that I work with and that I work for. I moved here in July of 2014, so I've only been here a little over 2 years. By October of 2014, I started a food program with the help of Second Harvest, and by November, we were the fastest growing food program in the county, and by January, we were the largest food program in the county. In the process of making sure that people in this community are fed, we have been able to uncover a lot of other issues that need to be addressed that were not, in my opinion, being addressed satisfactorily. We have issues of multiple families living in homes, and I fully understand the need to enforce the building codes for the purposes of safety. But I also know that when issues are not dealing with local people who own their homes with 4 and 5 families in that facility. I know that the city ignores building code violations because I actually filed a complaint and the city has yet to do anything about it. So this is what I want to do. I want to see the city be more responsive to the community, and that is why I'm running for the city council.
Thank you. First question mentions the Target store that's opening. That's great, but we need real jobs with living wages. What will you do to get us local good jobs? Larry goes first.
Do I go first?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Again? Okay, that's great.
Tag, you're it.
All right. So economic development is a big priority, not only for me personally, but certainly our city council. Target is just one of many retail outlets that we are actively pursuing. We need to develop an economic strategy, and I think we have as a council. We've identified ways in which we can best utilize our redevelopment zone to bring in jobs and opportunities for our local residents. One of the things that I'm most excited about is that we seem to be very close to coming to an agreement with some partnering cities to identify water. And water certainly would allow us to create some projects here locally. One of the things that are most important to me is that as we create jobs for our local residents, that we're in alignment with the workforce needs of Silicon Valley, that we're not just trying to grab the low-hanging fruit, that we're looking to prepare our young people for the career opportunities that are available not only today, but in the near future here in Silicon Valley.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa?
So, and I agree with Vice Mayor Moody. Water is the issue right now. In order to develop jobs, housing, we have to have water in the community to bring anything in, to be able to develop. But in order to create housing, we need to do better with education and making sure, and when I talk about education, making sure people understand or our residents are geared towards education that will lead them towards the jobs of Silicon Valley. We look at Facebook, who's right on the edge of us, and most of our residents are offered jobs in the kitchen for security, but they should be able to get those jobs that will pay a prevailing or living wage, such as engineers and other aspects of the community. But just being in Silicon Valley, just making sure we're ready, we're prepared, we're equipped, and we're trained for the jobs within this region. But again, when water is solved in our community, then we can attract those developments that will bring living wage jobs. Lastly, I will mention our first source hiring policy that's within our community. And with first source hiring, it makes sure that 15% or a percentage of the residents who live in East Palo Alto have opportunities for the jobs. And as the construction jobs and those happen within the community, we want to make sure our residents are equipped and available and have opportunities for not only the jobs that are in our community, but regionally. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dwayne?
Yeah, I agree with the goals that have been stated. The obvious question is, why are we just talking about these goals now? This is not a problem that came up yesterday. This is a problem this community has had for years. These are issues that are way overdue to be solved, not be discussing what we might do about them. We need to find out, for example, what are the skills that are available in this community. There are lots of folks who have little small businesses they operate out of their garage or out of their home, that we could be an incubator for them to help them start a small business which could grow into a giant business. We need to be aware of that. There's lots of hardworking people in this community. I agree that we need to look for jobs in the Silicon Valley that are the good paying jobs for the engineers and things like that. But we need to let people know that they can start their own little business. Entrepreneurship is an important part of the economic development of America and of this community. That's vitally important to us, and nobody is taking any notion to find out what skills we have here and what kinds of businesses can we develop in our community to serve our needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Lisa, you'll start with this one, and I guess I should have asked this question first. How can you solve the water problem, and how fast?
That is a good question. How fast? I don't know how fast, but I know we're in discussions with the SFPUC, and they're aware of it, and they're made that our water issue is a top priority for them. We're talking to Mountain View right now, and we're in development. I know the mayor and myself were part of the subcommittee to talk to the cities that and try to help develop the water strategy plan to get water from someone. Outside of that, we're looking at 2 wells, and we could probably bring wells online faster than this water issue can come to play. But we know that water is critical for our development. Water is what is needed to fix the roads and do anything else within our community. So we're looking at water. We're looking at different cities to deal with water. We're talking to the SFPUC, and we're looking to bring 2 wells on. Now, how soon can that happen? That's a good question. We've put money into it. We have drawings, and we're closer to getting Gloria Bay well on than we are Pad D, but all of these are in play.
Thank you. Dwayne?
I have no idea how soon we can get the water problem solved. Apparently, it's going to take quite a bit of time because the water problem has existed for years, many years. I don't understand why it wasn't addressed earlier. I know the city council is working very hard on it now, and I support their efforts on that, but I think it's not the kind of solution that's going to come in just a few months. It's very complicated, especially when you have to deal with other local governments.
Can I just rebut? I think the council just isn't just looking at it now. They realized it some time ago, but it's just coming where the SFPUC is willing to listen to us and hear it and take it seriously. But early on, council realized that we had a water issue, and they tried to bring it to SFPUC, and they wouldn't address it at the time. So council isn't just looking at it now.
Thank you. I'd like to ask you to keep your comments to your answering the question. Thank you. And Larry, if you'd like to.
So actually, I really want to pick up from there because this council has been actively engaged in this discussion of water, having our own water allocations, having our own water supply for the past 4 years. 3 years ago, this council put a large portion of our general fund monies towards a capital improvement plan. And one of the things that was to target was water storage, and the development of 2 wells here in East Palo Alto. We understand that the Gloria Way well is very close to being at a place where we can begin utilizing it in the community. We have at Pad D, we have a well that has great forecasts for the very near future, and we look forward to putting those water allocations into play for our community. We have been building the relationships in the region, and I actually serve on the Bay Area Conservation and Supply Group called BOSCWA, just replacing Councilmember Ruben Abrica. I've also been on the San Mateo County Housing and Community Development Commission, and through that commission, we were actually able to identify about $700,000 in county funds that helped towards the development of the Gloria Way well. Now, obviously, this is a very systemic issue about the water allocations here in the Bay Area. We certainly have addressed it, and we have raised that profile. There's been a lot of national press around the issue of water. And
thank you.
okay.
On a related, can I ask the question first?
She just told me that she went in and talked to the people about the microphone because it keeps cutting out. We have to tell them to get straight into it. Don't turn this.
Okay. We've been advised that we all need to speak directly straight into the microphones and don't turn our heads because we're not coming through. So a related water question. The rising water level of the Bay is a serious long-term threat. How do you think it should be dealt with? And Dwayne, you'll take this question first.
I'm not an engineer. I have no idea how you would deal with the rising ocean. Most of this country doesn't know how to deal with the rising ocean.
Thank you. Lisa?
So sea level rise is something that's really important, and it affects not just East Palo Alto, but the peninsula. So dealing with San Mateo County and Dave Pine, we're looking in with the Creek JPA. This area is looking to build some type of seawall, but it can't just stop or start at East Palo Alto. We have to figure out where it's going to go down, and it has to protect the entire Bay Area. Otherwise, water will come around the wall that we're looking to build around us. But the ideal right now is to have a seawall at the bay side that will protect us from sea level rise.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I appreciate Lisa's leadership on the council on this topic. It is a high learning curve. Sea level rise has really become a issue for San Mateo County residents, and certainly East Palo Alto and Palo Alto, just very recently. Certainly we need to listen to the best thinkers on this topic so we can raise our learning curve, so we can better inform our community. Oftentimes, we have a tendency to make soundbite responses to issues that require a lot of technical thought and preparation. So, but be certain that we as a council, and I personally, we're at the table with many of these individuals and commissions that are leading the county in this discussion.
Thank you. And Larry, we'll start with you again on this one. Should you be elected, what are you going to do for our senior citizens?
Well, where do I begin? First and foremost, I would continue the efforts of our council and our senior advisory commission committee that works through the council to continue doing the assessment and the evaluations of the best practices, not only here in East Palo Alto, but certainly within the region. I want to make sure that our senior center and the staff have the training and the development skills that are within their reach. One of the things I absolutely would encourage our council to do is to invest more into mobility activities for our seniors here locally, not just those who participate at the senior center, but those who are throughout our community. I think outreach and advocacy, door knocking, having a clear understanding of who our seniors are today in this community. I mean, it's only the age of 65, you begin to hit that threshold. We want to make sure that the senior center is a welcoming place, an open environment, a place where community can be found, and health and wellness can always be at the forefront for our seniors. So I would make sure that training, personal and professional development is made available for all the staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa?
You know, we stand on the shoulders of our seniors. They've come before us, they've stood here, and we are here today because of the work of our seniors. What's important is that we protect them. You know, oftentimes you have seniors who are abused by fraud. You have seniors that are not taken care of. So putting protections in place to make sure that the seniors are going to be taken care of is probably critical. Our senior centers, seniors having a place to go during the day. Food and breakfast, the breakfast program, the food program that is currently being offered is important and essential because we don't always know if seniors are on a fixed income, where they're going to eat or what are they eating if there's nothing there for them. Having the programs that take them on field trips and do things for them. The seniors are important to us, and one day I too will be a senior and will want somebody to look after me and take care of me and provide services for me as well. But it is important to make sure that our seniors are not abused or taken advantage of. So we need to continue to support the senior center and the senior programs that are in place.
Thank you. Dwayne?
Well, first of all, the East Palo Alto Senior Center is a warm and inviting place for our seniors to go. They get warm meals there. They get treated with respect. They have different kinds of exercise programs. They have all kinds of programs there, the kinds of things they want to do. Some of them want to sew dolls. Some of them want to do knitting. They have aerobics for the folks there. There's a lot of things that are already there. What I would work towards if I were on the city council, there's a couple of issues. One is that I would work towards making sure that the senior center actually got its payment from the city on time in compliance with the contract that it has, instead of usually about 6 months behind time. The second thing I would do is when the city wants to put on a program for seniors, the first place I would go to get the seniors to participate would be to the senior center rather than to the Y, where the last time we had this, there was a very low turnout, while the building right next door, the senior center, was filled with people just there for their regular morning meal and exercise programs. So what we need to do is have the city bureaucracy work more closely with the management of the senior center to improve the services there and to get a better cash flow going so that the folks can spend their time providing services instead of having to go out and hustle for more money.
Thank you. Lisa, you'll take this question first. Police overtime expenses have been out of control for years. Is there an end expected soon?
You know, that's a good question. I think police overtime comes with crime in the city. The fact that our crime is down 65% will help with those issues. The other thing that happens with police departments is if you don't have an adequately staffed police department, the police still have to be somebody has to be out there, and if somebody is out sick, on disability, or if there's something happens within the community and the police have to be on duty, then we have to pay them. I think we're doing a better job. I have not seen their numbers this year, but with crime being down, I believe that the overtime should be down as well, should have been reduced as well. But it is important to have an adequately staffed police department in order to manage and control cost.
Thank you. Dwayne?
First of all, I've had interaction in my civil rights activities with a number of law enforcement agencies across the state, and I want to start off by saying this is far and away the finest police force I've ever interacted with. They're fantastic. And Lisa's absolutely correct. You really have your staffing reflects how the crime works in the community, and what you have to do is look at how much your overtime is and see if it would be cheaper to hire another police officer, or maybe some of the duties of that police officer could be given to a non-sworn person. So it's not an easy, black and white issue. There's a lot of numbers in there, and it's not just the numbers for crime, but it's the numbers of what you got to pay. We have this very same problem with many of our first responders throughout the state, whether it's correctional officers, local police departments, hospitals have the same problem with their staffing. It's very complex, and it's not easily solved.
Thank you. And Larry?
You know, we, as a city council, we have done a great job of identifying public safety as a huge, probably the number one priority for our community. We understand that changing the narrative of how our community is viewed certainly would require placing more officers on the street. To bring in a head of the police department, which we have done. So as a result, we have 7 new police officers this past year. We have a new police chief. We have a new attitude. We have a new motivation in our police department to do the best job that they can do for the residents of East Palo Alto. Community policing is at an all-time high. So in terms, when we begin reflecting back on the budget, you will find that the overtime has diminished considerably. Our finance director tells us all the time that we've been able to balance out our budget. And one of the reasons that we're able to do that is because we're not expending a lot of additional overtime funds through our general fund. So our police department is doing a bang-up job, and overtime is at an all-time low because of the reduction in crime.
Thank you. And Dwayne, you'll start with this question. What do you plan to do to support people who, due to the high cost of living, have difficulty feeding their families?
That's a perfect question for me. I run first of all, there's a number of food programs in this community that really work hard to make sure the community is fed. I happen to have organized the largest one in the community, but we are certainly not alone. We have tremendous support from the community. The volunteers they're just unbelievable. We have between 45 and 50 volunteers every time we give the food out that are from here in EPA. and we give the food out on the second and fourth Saturday of the month. On the fourth Saturday, we have an additional 10 to 15 that come from outside, from a church, that comes over to help us. We work very well with the Second Harvest people. They take great care of our folks. They make sure that we've got plenty of food to feed our people. So that's the single most important way to do it, because a lot of the people really are stuck, especially our seniors, having to decide between buying food or paying the rent, or buying food and buying their medicine, or buying food and buying their child new shoes. So it's vitally important. Second Harvest motto is, when you're hungry, nothing else matters. And when I saw that, I knew I had to get involved in feeding this community. So I'm very proud to say that I feed this community, and if we have more hungry people, we're working hand in hand with Second Harvest, we can increase the amount of food that we are giving out.
Thank you. Larry?
You know, I'm glad DUANE has certainly come to our community over the past 2 years and added value around the feeding of our community, and we certainly appreciate his partnership with the Ravenswood School District that allows him that facility, and I celebrate that. But we've been working hard as a community to feed our community for a number of years. I think about our early Whiskey Gulch days when Bread of Life was down there, making sure that every family in need had an opportunity to get a hot meal, a basket, and more importantly, the compassion that comes along with being a member of this community. We have to continue to increase our inventory of food service providers. Now, St. Francis of Assisi provides foods, Project We Hope provides food, Ecumenical Hunger Program provides food, and there's numerous local churches who do the best job that they can to provide support and food for not only just their congregation members, but relatives and relationships within those congregations. So we have to just continue to increase our inventory of food providers.
Thank you. And Lisa?
Thank you. Thank you. So while having more food providers is something that's really critically important, as I stated before, I provide hot meals with St. Francis on Wednesday nights to the community. But I think it's an answer of how do we put more money in pockets of the residents of East Palo Alto? Does that mean we should increase the minimum wage to $15 so that people have more money and they don't have to rely on the food programs as much? I think that's where we need to start thinking, how do we do things to help people, not only by giving them food, but putting them in a better position so that they can provide for themselves. And I think that's probably one of the things we also need to look at. But I do agree, all the food programs are very much needed. They're doing a great job, but people need money as well.
Thank you. And Larry, we'll start with you on this question. What is your plan for affordable housing for our EPA?
To increase the city's ability to identify funds to develop a housing program. We actually have a strategy. We have identified 2.5 acres of land right on Week Street that is city-owned property. But we have to continue to add money to our housing fund. Presently, we have about $6.5 million allocated for our housing allocation. We're working with county and statewide partners to try to increase that fund. I'm very grateful to be a part of the Housing and Community Development Division that identified a little over $700,000 that came into the city to help the city leveraged $300,000 to develop 41 units of affordable housing, senior housing, right here on University Avenue. The housing dilemma is one that is challenged throughout the state. It's going to take partnerships and it's going to take economic development to add money to our general fund budget so we can control the housing desires that we have.
Thank you. Lisa?
Thank you. The housing crisis that we are in is not East Palo Alto's alone, and I must say that East Palo Alto alone cannot solve this regional issue. We need more cities to develop their own affordable housing, because right now East Palo Alto has taken the brunt, and we're the only ones that are actually developing affordable housing. But in addition to that affordable housing strategy, you know, the ordinance, Costa-Hawkins ordinance, put something in place that where we can't control single-family homes. East Palo Alto has done a great job with rent stabilization, where we can control and we manage the apartments. But many times, people are being displaced, and the affordable housing that we're losing has to do with the single-family homes. And that's a state ordinance that we need to try to reverse or do something with, so that we, as a city, can control more of our affordable housing stock. Thank you.
Thank you. Dwayne?
I agree that the housing problem we have here is a regional problem. It's not unique to East Palo Alto. However, I'm concerned about some of the things that are being done to provide housing. For example, we've got that low-income senior, 41 senior apartments that are going to be coming online pretty soon. The disturbing part of that was, you know, we didn't have I understand to a certain degree we didn't have a choice in it because we had money from outside the community. But when you consider the fact that we are building low-income apartments in our community, and we cannot even guarantee one apartment will go to an EPA resident because it's going to be done by a lottery system. I don't have any problem with taking care of people in other communities as long as we take care of ours first. I don't mind feeding the kid next door, but I'm not letting my kid go hungry while the kid next door eats. And I think that we need to be more focused on our community and be a little more selfish. In addition, there are, in fact, all kinds of regulations and laws that make it difficult for us to do more housing here in this community and do it the way we need to do it. And so what we need to do is we need to have a stronger lobbying arm in Sacramento. We need to work closely with our local representatives as well as the folks that are in Sacramento that come from other parts of the state. If we have laws that are keeping us from providing housing to our people, we need to see that those laws get changed. When I worked for the state, one of the things I was well aware of is that we had two sets of laws in this state, one set for California and a different set for Los Angeles County. The point of that is that you can get the laws changed.
Thank you. Lisa, is there a youth-led community board with decision-making or policy-making power? If not, do you think there should be?
Right now, we do not have one that is associated with East Palo Alto. We do have YUCA that does a lot of things within the community, but they don't report directly to the city. Under My Brother's Keeper, we have had some initiatives, and we've had some young people come to the table, and I think it is time to have a youth-led organization, a youth council, so that we can hear from our youth, because our youth, they are our future, and we want to know what's important to them and hear what they're doing. Also at the YMCA, they have a group that work on youth or government issues, and they take them to Sacramento, and they have an opportunity to represent and work as Senate and as on the Assembly. And when they come back, the things that they're working on, they pick true issues that are affecting East Palo Alto. They'll go to Sacramento and they'll work on those. Those groups need to come back and talk to us and work with us, and so that we can find solutions that are not only good for the adults, but also for the children.
Thank you. And Dwayne?
Yes. I agree completely with what she said. I think one of the problems we have in this country is a lack of participation in the electoral process. And part of that is because we tend to not recognize the opinions of our young people. The young people come up with some fantastically creative things. I mean, I've worked with kids for 25 years. I did fast-pitch softball. For 4 years, I ran the youth organization at the church that I went to, the St. Joseph's Catholic Church in Sacramento. So I've got many years working with youth. I work with youth here in East Palo Alto. And I will admit that they will come up with ideas that to me sound ridiculous, and I have to force myself to go, okay, let's try it. And it's amazing how often their ideas work. They really do have good ideas and often have very, very good judgment. And the way we can bring them into the process of running this community in the future is to invite them in now while they're full of fresh ideas, and we can steal some of their ideas.
Thank you. Larry?
Many of you know that I have a very strong background in youth development in this community, beginning in 1992 and 93, being one of the coordinators for the Midnight Basketball Program, which was one of the first efforts in conjunction with the Department of Justice to address much of the violence that was going on in our community. I'm formerly a program coordinator for the City of East Palo Alto's Park and Recreation Division under the Community Services Division, which no longer exists. During those times, and certainly I was former director of the Boys and Girls Club here in East Palo Alto, and actually opened up the Pulgas facility as one of its directors. So my ear to the youth has been very apparent over the last 23 years in this community. Being a father of 4 sons, I understand the importance and the value of hearing from our young people, especially in light of what's going on with the culture of Black Lives Matter and a lot of the challenges that our young people are facing in today's society.
Thank you. Let's see, Dwayne, we'll start with you on how would you address the community concerns about homes being bought at a rapid pace as rental properties by outside buyers and doubling rent costs, which leads to residents moving out of the community?
That is a gigantic problem. The house I rent today belongs to a lady from China who does not live here. And that's happening far too often. Unfortunately, as far as I'm aware, there are no laws that keep them from buying property for investment purposes, and there's no laws that stop them from raising the rents a ridiculous amount from year to year. What I would think about doing is something that Boston did. What Boston did was it split out its tax roll, so it split out the taxes on the land itself versus the taxes on the house itself. And what that did was it kept people from coming in and buying a house and keeping it for 3 or 4 years, 5 years, and then turning it over for a profit. Exactly how it worked, I'm not sure. I'm still looking into how that worked, but it did in fact work. And so we might consider things like this. The whole idea of being on the city council is to come up with some fresh ideas, some new approaches, and a lot of times these best ideas come from other states. But it is a gigantic problem, and right now, as far as I'm aware, there's nothing we can do to stop them from doing that.
Thank you. Larry?
One of the things that is very apparent here in California, certainly in the Bay Area, is that the housing market has become a very active investment market. And people oftentimes who live across the world are making investments into available housing, not only in East Palo Alto, but throughout the Bay Area. And the question that you have to ask is why? Oftentimes you would come to realize that this region is rich in resources and people want to have a stake here. I look at San Francisco and what they're doing with their short-term leasing arrangements around housing, Airbnb units, and other short-term strategies that they have, where they're forcing the owners to identify themselves and also to work in compliance with local governments as it relates to the length and the term of those rentals. Another thing is that Stanford University, Silicon Valley, Google, the reason people are coming in for short-term rentals, we need to bring them to the table to have a conversation about the people who are participating on their campuses and they're living in our community, what we can do jointly to identify who they are and how they can best serve our community.
Thank you. Lisa?
This issue is a huge issue, and I think it goes back to when you look at single-family homes and the affordable housing, people who are coming here, it's financial literacy. How do we teach and make funds available for residents so that they can own their homes? Because when you own your home, you have control over it. I'm fortunate to own the home that I grew up in, and had it not been for my mother at that time saying that she was going to buy a house for her children, I don't know that I would even be able to afford the city of East Palo Alto right now. So it's important that if we're going to have affordable housing, we need to have some financial literacy. We need to continue to make sure that we have BMR units if we're building new units, so that some units are going to be affordable even in the newer developments. Looking at the cost of Hawkins to see what we can do about the rents. How can we control these single-family homes and the rents that are going up sky high? We don't have control because the state has taken that away from us. But if we can go back and repeal the Cost of Hawkins Act and then have some measures that will allow us to kind of manage those rents, I think that's the ideal thing to do.
Thank you. And Larry, back to you. How are you planning on raising the hourly rate for jobs in EPA? Many of our families are struggling to pay rent at $15 an hour.
Well, we have to create jobs in East Palo Alto. We have to develop our own economic engine so that we can set the rates for local hires and local participation. We do have a first source hiring program that we use to encourage the local organizations to hire locally and to create some benefits and advantages. I have been very active in working with the city of Palo Alto, and I've actually gone to Palo Alto on numerous occasions as they began their discussion this past year over raising the minimum wage rate up to $15 an hour. Because we understand very clearly that a majority of our residents are working across the 101, who are working in Santa Clara County, they're working in Palo Alto, they're working in Redwood City. We have to have a advocacy with the other neighboring cities to help them to understand the importance of raising the minimum wage so that their workforce can be protected and that our residents can have the ability to live affordably in the East Palo Alto community. So we have to engage with the Chamber of Commerce, we have to engage with the local businesses, and also, most importantly, we have to engage with the local city governments to raise the awareness on the importance of the East Palo Alto resident towards their own personal workforce.
Thank you. Lisa?
Thank you. So the living wage, I think if I heard the question correctly, the $15, would it be enough? If you can repeat the question.
How are you planning on raising the hourly rate for jobs in EPA?
Okay, it's important that we look at the job, raising the minimum wage. And if it means to $15 an hour, that's what the council is here for. And I know Vice Mayor Moody had mentioned it, and it is time, because you can't really afford a rent, apartments, or anything on very minimum wages. But outside of minimum wages, we need to look at living wages and prevailing wages jobs. We need to look at how do we get people into the construction field where you have prevailing wages, living wages. How do we bring back manufacturing and other organizations and other jobs where they're going to allow you to make more than just the minimum wage? Because a minimum wage at even $15 an hour, I don't think that's going to be enough in East Palo Alto. So what do we do? And how do we create the jobs within our community? It's going to go back to water so that we can develop and attract those developments that will come in here and provide the living wage job.
Thank you. Dwayne?
Yeah, I agree with both Larry and Lisa completely. We do need to develop better paying jobs. Obviously, the city council has the authority to make a motion to raise the minimum wage to $15. We can pass it. But that's not going to help our people that live here who work on the other side of the freeway. So as Lisa said, we have to work with other local governments, city and county, to do it more on a regional basis. Because, I mean, if we have people that work here who commute from Tracy, then we know that some of our folks are working a long ways away from here also. And $15 an hour here doesn't help them when they're working over there. So we definitely need to develop better paying jobs. We need to come up with a way to provide training. We've got great hardworking people in this community. All they need is some specific training, and they'd be able to do that. And again, we need to encourage entrepreneurship so people can develop their own small business, and it can grow, and it can not only enrich them, but enrich the community as a whole.
Thank you. Lisa, can we as a city provide tax breaks or other incentives to current EPA residents or low-income folks looking to be first-time home buyers?
You know, that's a good question, and I must say I don't have the answer, and I don't see why we couldn't work on figuring out how to help first-time home buyers. I know we have EPA Can Do that's in place to help people figure out first-time home buyers achieve home ownership, and that is something that we need to look at in order to help individuals with truly home ownership. But again, home ownership can be achieved through the BMR units when we develop and bring on new housing projects within our community, financial literacy courses, things like that, and working with people to help achieve home ownership. Because when you own your home, you have better control of your future.
Thank you. And Dwayne?
Yes, I think the tax idea is a wonderful idea. Taxes can be used in very, very constructive ways to change the way a community operates. For example, if we were to pass, assuming it would be legal, because it would have to have legal review, but if we were to pass a tax, a property tax in this community, and we would waive the tax for those people that have owner-occupied homes, we would in fact be taxing the out-of-country investors who are just gouging us on our rents. That would help us. We need to come up with really creative ways. We need to think outside the box. And that's one of the things that I am prepared to do, is think outside the box. And I realize what some of my ideas are going to sound crazy on their face, but some of them are actually very viable ways to increase the income for this community, as well as provide an opportunity for our residents to purchase homes in this community.
Thank you. Larry?
The desire is always there to create opportunities for first-time home ownership, certainly especially for longtime residents and young people of longtime residents of this community. Back when the RDA was in place and we had more monies in our coffers as a city, that was the desired outcome. We wanted to make sure that the housing that was being developed in the community had a local reference point, that we made sure that people who participated in the lottery locally had an opportunity to live in those units. So today is a little different. I don't know if we develop a tax, but I think we work with the agencies that are designed to help first-time home owners. Here locally, we have Able Works that once again helps individuals with their financial literacy profile, helping them with credit recovery. Also, San Mateo County Housing Division has a wide range of products to help first-time homeowners or those who desire to become first-time homeowners. So I think it's our responsibility as a city to create the advocacy, identify where the resources are, and point our local residents to those places. Thank you.
Dwayne, we'll start with you on this question. There have been a number of questions on homeless problems in EPA. Police harassing the homeless, lack of shelter space. How do you plan to fix the problem of homeless people in East Palo Alto?
Well, I don't think that this community, maybe even this whole region, can fix the homeless problem. But one of the things we can do to not exacerbate the problem is it goes back to our code enforcement. If you have an environment in which somebody's living that is truly, truly dangerous, we of course do not want to see them continue to live in that environment. It could be, the electrical wiring is dangerous. We don't want to see that facility, whatever they're living in, burned down. Some of the folks are living in camper shells in somebody's backyard. Those, I would say, yes, those need to be moved out. Those people are being treated in a very dangerous manner. We have other people who live in garages. The garages don't meet the code, but they're not dangerous. I would like to see the city, instead of going in there like a judge and making a judgment that this house does not meet code and you've got to get out, and then when that rent is gone from the homeowner, maybe the homeowner ends up losing a home because they needed that extra rent to make their mortgage payment. So now you got two families that are homeless. What I'd rather see the city do is sit down in a logical way and say, okay, here's what's wrong with this facility that is creating a dangerous situation, whether it be plumbing or the gas lines or the electrical lines. some of the other issues are often cosmetic, but they do violate code, and these are being used to move people out of the facilities that they're living in. We need to stop doing that, because that is actually exacerbating the situation and creating more homeless people.
Thank you. Larry?
Homelessness has gotten to become a word that is synonymous with family. It used to be a word that was identified someone else that you didn't know, someone that you didn't have a relationship with. What we're finding out in today's culture is that many of the relationships we have are just 2 or 3 paychecks removed from becoming homeless. We're living in a marketplace that is really challenging stable housing today like never before. So my suggestion is to, once again, create additional partnerships. I started a program when I used to work for Menlo Park Presbyterian Church called Hotel to Zinc, where the churches would use their facility for 30 days at a time to provide space for a homeless community that was case managed, that was identified, and we would work with the other faith-based organizations to move these homeless shelters around every 30 days to give the stability to that population that they needed to try to get back on their feet. If reelected, that's one of the programs I'd like to bring back to the council to have launched here locally.
Thank you. Lisa?
Sure. Homelessness is a huge issue within not only our community, but all over the region. Anywhere you go, you see the homeless, and it is very tragic. Oftentimes when I'm riding in East Palo Alto, I see some of the buildings that are empty, and I often wonder, why can't we utilize some of our structures that are just sitting there for the time being to house some of the homeless so they just don't have to be out in the open. While on council, I brought in downtown street teams to East Palo Alto, and it's an organization that will work with the homeless population, and at the time, it will train them and help them and try to get them on track so that and provide housing for them. And what the program does is not only do they work with the homeless will work with the community as well. We are plagued with a lot of blight within our community, and if we could put a program in place where we work with the homeless and they're helping us to keep our city clean, and in turn they go through a program and then they're on track for housing, I think that's a solution that we should be looking at. Thank you.
Thank you. Larry, we'll start with you. There have been a couple on career preparation for young people. If elected, what will you do to ensure our youth are prepared to compete in a competitive job market?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, the first part?
Just questions on career preparation for the young people in East Palo Alto. If elected, what will you do to ensure our youth are prepared to compete in a competitive job market?
Well, to work in any market, you have to have the skill set to compete. Education will be at the forefront of my conversation. As a former trustee of the Ravenswood City School District, I know the importance of equipping our kids with the tools for the 21st century. We would have to work collaboratively with Ravenswood, the Sequoia, and also the community college districts to implement a strategy that it self-selects and identifies our local students for tomorrow's workforce needs. We would have to work with Job Train to make sure that our young people who have a desire to participate in some of the career paths that they offer there are case managed, that they get the applications, that they're able to get engaged and get on board. And certainly, our young people really want to work. And they want to be proud of the fact that they're from East Palo Alto working in other markets within the region. We have to work with our educational community to prepare them for the workforce needs of the 21st century.
Thank you. Lisa?
Sure, and I agree with Vice Mayor Moody. We have the Job Train that's doing some training. Education is going to be a big issue. I recently sat down with Facebook, and we're trying to figure out what do we have to do for our students and our residents of East Palo Alto to make sure that they are doing what they need to, that they're on track for those jobs that are happening regionally. But outside of just that, I think America is missing an opportunity to educate our young people so that they can get the right education and they can go in jobs. Case in point, we know that we're losing engineers, our engineers, and in these fields that people are aging out of these fields. And so we're going outside of the country to bring people here to do jobs within America. Why aren't we making sure that if a young person goes into that career field that is critical and important to America, that their education is paid for? Because if we're doing that, we're making sure that we're building up our future job force, and then we're encouraging young people to go into jobs that are going to pay them, again, that living wage that I keep saying, or prevailing wage.
Thank you. Dwayne?
Yes, the issue here is actually the organizations that need employees to give our young people a chance to show what they can do. I've been involved in the immigration issue for a number of years. And when people think of immigration reform, they think of Mexicanos coming over here that are farm workers, or Mexicanos that come over here that are taking away your job at the, building houses, things like that, or just doing cement work. And that's what they think of. But when you get into the issue of immigration, you find that a major player in immigration is in fact the Silicon Valley, because they are spending millions of dollars to try to get congressional approval to bring even more people from other countries to work here. And it seems to me that money could be better spent training our people here. We have young people here who may not have a college degree, but they got a high school diploma, they know how to code, they love tech work. They're just waiting for somebody to hire them because they don't know how to get into the system. I think the city ought to be going to the tech companies around here, Google and Facebook and all the other major companies, and sitting down and talking about what can we do to train these folks to move into your entry-level jobs in computing so you don't have to go to India or China to bring people in.
Thank you. Sort of a related question for Lisa. With the high cost of having high-speed internet, what is your plan to have it provided to the community to help the youth be able to do homework? Other communities surrounding EPA youth have a huge advantage on our youth, which translates in job marketability and income earnings.
Yeah, so we've been having that discussion. I've had that discussion with Google, trying to get Google to come in and kind of help out. Same discussion is being had with Facebook, because Facebook can go into a different country and provide high-speed internet for other countries, and they're right on our border, and we haven't figured out the solution. High-speed internet is critical and important. I agree. We are working on it, and we need to continue to push that effort. You know, we have organizations like Comcast that will give us a discount, but that give some families a discount, but that's not the solution. So we need to continue to have the discussion, keep pushing the envelope so that high-speed internet is available throughout the community.
Thank you. Dwayne?
I absolutely agree with Lisa, and I agree with the approach that she's taking, or that members of the city council are taking, in discussing this issue with the tech companies around here, Facebook, Google, and all the rest. And it's absolutely correct. They can provide this internet access to other countries, but they can't do it in their own country, in their own backyard. That's just not acceptable. One of the things a lot of folks don't realize is our schools in this community, our high schools and our elementary schools, they are presently getting their internet access at a discounted rate, which is soon to go away, and they're going to get bit really bad by that jump in the cost of providing access to the internet. So we need to address this, and we need to address it really, really soon. It's an extremely important issue to be addressed and to be settled. We need to be able to provide free Wi-Fi access to every person living in East Palo Alto.
Thank you. Larry?
Yeah, and I agree with both of the candidates. To not have access to the internet in today's marketplace is a state of emergency. We cannot allow our community to be without that connectivity that is just clearly essential to participating in today's marketplace. I think the city council would certainly be poised to provide leadership or the partnership with the Ravenswood School District, Sequoia, and the community colleges to go to the Googles and to the Apples and to the tech firms to talk about creating a wireless community, similar to what Google has done for Palo Alto. Now, there is a cost involved. right? But at the same time, it's the partnership and the relationship that we need to cement. And in cementing that relationship, we're going to make sure that we have Wi-Fi, internet access for our community, and we can just kind of move forward versus look behind.
Thank you. And we'll start, Dwayne, EPA needs money for social services, operational needs, and infrastructure. How would you increase the city's tax base?
Well, the first and obvious one is bring more business into the community. That's for certain. And as we've spoken of earlier, that's a very complex issue that can't be addressed, like overnight. The other thing I would do is I would like to see us look at the way we tax our property, see if there's a way that we can legally tax investors at a different rate than we tax homeowners. And if we could raise that up. At first glance, it looks like disparate treatment. You say, oh, no, you can't do that. You treat them differently. But I don't know. Maybe there's a way to do it. You get yourself a good legal opinion to support it, and maybe it could happen. I think we need to take unique approaches. We need to think outside the box on those kinds of issues. As regards bringing business into this community, again, we need to be some kind of an incubator for small business. We need to encourage people's entrepreneurship. We need to encourage the young people. If they've got a product or a service to sell, we need to encourage them to do that so we get some tax money off of their good hard work.
Thank you. Larry?
Economic development. I mean, and once again, when you say economic development, you have to say water. As soon as we're able to identify that water piece, which I think is very close to coming to fruition, through our general plans and through our four-corner strategic planning, we absolutely know where our commercial network is going to be. It's going to be Bay Road, University, all the way out to Cooley Landing. And in that space, we're going to be able to develop a retail community, a service-oriented community, more importantly, sales tax, which would allow us to provide the program and services that this community so desperately not only needs but covets. We desire to have smooth paved streets. We desire to have well-lit streets. We desire to have activities in our parks that are managed by professionals. So sales tax is through economic development is the activity that I, as a council member, look forward to happening here in East Palo Alto.
Thank you. Lisa?
I agree with both candidates here. And, voters have an opportunity to help us with this item on Election Day, because we have measures on our ballot that will address this very issue. Measure P will bring a half-cent sales tax to the community, and anybody who is shopping in the community will then therefore help us with our vital services. This initiative, once passed with your help, will bring $1.8 million to our community each year. So again, on November 8th, if you vote yes on Measure P, you can help us to bring more revenue to our city.
That's right.
Thank you. Should we do two more questions or one?
I don't know if they'll need to get closing statements into.
Yeah. I think we'll have this be our last question, and I'll start with Larry. All I hear is the equivalent of doom and gloom in regards to the pressing issues in our community: affordable housing for all, youth empowerment, and low wages. In one sentence, what would you say to the community that would give us hope and feel comfortable about the future of EPA? But I'd like to say maybe more than one sentence.
Larry, one sentence? I would say first and foremost, don't believe the hype, right? Don't believe the narrative of the 90s. We're no longer the community of the 90s, right? We're a community that's on the move.
Yeah, Mike, this is weird. Yeah. Talk now.
Okay. I'm going to do a do-over. Is it echoing?
You get a do-over.
Okay. We have to continue to change the narrative
Larry?
To use my coach's voice. We have to continue to change the narrative of East Palo Alto. We have to raise the profiles of the good news that is occurring in our community, whether it be with our children, whether it be with our seniors, whether it be with the diversity that we celebrate in this community, whether it be our festivals. We have to constantly share the good news. We have to challenge our local newspapers who oftentimes try to frame our image and tell those editors, hey, there's some great things happening here in our community. If you don't believe me, come on down, right? Spend time with us. Let me have you meet with some of our indigenous leaders. Let me have you sit with some of our youth as they're engaged in their activities. Let me bring you over to Street Code, over to the Boys and Girls Club. It's really about a collective effort of this community to help change the narrative. Everyone looks at us and say, man, East Palo Alto is a little different. We need to begin telling them why and why we're different today.
Thank you.
Sure, I just think we need to celebrate the good things. Really. We need to celebrate the great things that are happening. East Palo Alto is a wonderful place to be. I am a product of this community. It is no other city, I think, in San Mateo County where you can get to know your neighbors and we feel like a family. Whenever I go somewhere, I'm proud to say I'm from East Palo Alto. And people look and they think that there's something, that negative connotation is gone. East Palo Alto is not that anymore. But we're a loving community. We're graduating more of our high school students. More people are going to college. And we have a lot of positive things that are happening. So we all have to be proud. And we all should have, maybe we should have shirts that say we're proud to be from East Palo Alto. Because I know I'm proud to be from East Palo Alto.
Thank you.
I couldn't agree more. I'm also very proud to be from here. I love this community. My wife and I hope that somehow we can work out to buy a home, because we sure can't afford the rent, and stay here. If this is the most wonderful community I've ever lived in. I've lived in a number of communities, and this is far and away the best. We do need to figure out how to get that outside this community to the people in Palo Alto and Redwood City and so on. They do a pretty good job of marketing their communities. We need to, take a little hint from them and do the kinds of things they do. This is a fantastic community with lots of fantastic people. One of the problems we have is we sometimes dig ourselves a hole with the way we make references to our own community. When we're talking to people, instead of talking about the good things, we'll make little comments about the bad. Oh, that traffic over there. You can't even park on the street, man. There's so many. See, we don't need to say stuff like that. I mean, just because it's true doesn't mean we should say it. So if we showed more pride in our community and bragged about our community, and I think what would be really good is if we were to have some kind of a community program here where on a regular basis we would bring that point to our residents and remind them that they all have a sphere of influence, and when they talk about East Palo Alto, they need to talk in positive tones, because that sphere of influence they have, those people that they influence, they're going to go out and repeat your attitude.
Thank you. And now we'll have the closing statements, and we'll go in the reverse order of the opening statements. So DUANE Goff will open with his closing statement.
Somebody asked me a while back, who are you running against? I'm not running against anybody. I'm running for a seat on the city council. I think I've got some good ideas. I've got years of experience in leading organizations. I've been a statewide leader with the American GI Forum. It's a civil rights organization. I'm presently part of the leadership of the California State LULAC, another civil rights organization, the oldest Latino civil rights organization in America. And I think I can bring some of the ideas to this table, some of my leadership skills, and definitely bring the love I have for this community to this table. I think that the biggest problem we have, the water, of course, underlies everything we want to do. But that being said, the biggest problem we have is affordable housing. And we need to address that. Be aware of how drastic it is and address it in that manner. One of the things that we have that nobody else around us has, we've got the people of East Palo Alto. We've got the folks that in the 60s weren't allowed to buy anywhere but here. So they came here and they made a beautiful community. There's wonderful culture here. There's wonderful people here. There's tons of love here. And I just want to be here and serve this community. Whether I'm on the city council, the food program, or some other thing that jumps up, I'm going to be serving this community because this is a wonderful community, and I'm really proud to be a member.
Thank you. Lisa.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to the residents of East Palo Alto for giving me the opportunity to serve for the first 4 years, nearly 4 years on council. While on council, I've served as a council member, I've been the vice mayor, and I've been the mayor. And this city has given me great opportunities. I've been able to travel to China for the East Palo Alto. I've been to the White House on behalf of East Palo Alto. So representing East Palo Alto has been my job and something that I've really enjoyed. I've been able to bring those relationships from Washington, D.C. to East Palo Alto and hope to continue that. We know that affordable housing, water, parking, blight are critical issues. And there are some things that we're working on together as a council, and I hope to have the opportunity, with your help, to continue those efforts and to continue to fight, not only for myself and for my children, but for you and your children. Thank you.
Larry?
Once again, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for bringing us all together. It's a very robust conversation, and it certainly is going to be one of many. You know, one of the things that I pride myself on is being a part of the East Palo Alto City Council. And over the last 3.5 years, I have learned the weight of leadership like never before. You know, I've been program director on numerous occasions for many different entities in this community, but there's nothing more humbling than sitting in this seat and guiding the practices and the policy of this city. I'm fortunate enough to be a part of a council that shares the same vision, goals, and aspirations of all of us. We want the best East Palo Alto that we can be. Now, oftentimes we have different methods of accomplishing that. But one of the things that we have done as a council, as not only have we changed the narrative of the city, but we have changed the narrative of the council. And I've been a big part of that. We've found a professional etiquette on our council that you as residents can be proud of today. We're working hard, we're getting business done. The morale in our city with our city employees is at an all-time high. So that means that we're all engaged in the vision and the direction of the city. We set the agenda, the city council does, only through your input. I want to just continue to serve for another 4 years on this council to raise your desire for a great East Palo Alto community, one in which we can all be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the candidates and our volunteers for participating this evening, and I'd like to especially thank you, the audience, for being here tonight and informing yourselves so you'll be better voters November 8th. You'll be more knowledgeable. As a reminder, be sure to look up additional information about the candidates, other races, and both state and local measures on the League's election website. That was www.votersedge.org. The video replay of this forum will be posted soon on Voters Edge, the League's website, and also Mid-Peninsula Community Media Center's website. Thank you all so much for being here tonight.
Thank you. Give Dwayne a high five for me.
How you doing? What? I should have told them about my days on Ravenswood. Hey, did they tell you I was up there looking for you last month? I was up at Stanford looking for you.